So, I'll just start. I was watching YouTube. I often watch other YouTube shows because, hey, they influenced me to do what I'm doing right now. So, I was watching Internet Kill Television. And I was watching, his name is Charles Trippy. He is the guitarist, one of the many guitarists for a band called We the Kings. And he was talking about, he's currently separated from his wife, Allie, and they used to do a show together. And now he's doing it by himself. And he's been doing it for a while. And you know he was going through stuff, and he talks about it all the time, but he also, you know, he's going through cancer, so he's going through chemo, and he's dealing with his family and the separation, and he's putting on a good face. And he just wanted to, and he decided over the past few days, he said, you know, I just want to let you guys know I am going through stuff, and I appreciate all the support, but I'm keeping things private. And, you know, he's like, I'm not, you know, just all smiles and glitter. It's like, oh, it'll be fine. Yes, it'll suck, but it'll be fine. No, he was going through things, and he's talking about it, and he's being honest about it. And there are things he'll tell us, and there are things he doesn't tell us. He's been doing vlogs for this is his 6th year. So he just felt he had to share and talk about it. There's something on my glasses, so I have to clean it off. But I just sent him a little note saying, hey, you're in a transition phase. Take whatever time you need, and remember to laugh. That's the one thing. Just laugh. Be happy. You know, whatever it takes, whatever time it takes, it'll take. And then the reason I bring this up is because I saw that vlog, but earlier I was talking to my parents. Their bedroom's down the hall. Yeah, I live at home. I have to. We'll get into that another time. But I was talking to them, and I said, you know, they were listening to the radio, and they heard something about anniversaries and stuff like that. And I said, and then I had a by the way moment. And I asked them, what do you guys plan to do for your 45th? Because next year, they're going to be celebrating their 45th wedding anniversary. So I said, what were your plans? I mean, did you think about anything? Because usually, you know, my mom is already thinking ahead of stuff. And she hadn't thought of anything yet. And then they got into the story of how they met and got together and everything. And I just found it ironic. And then I saw the Charles Trippy YouTube vlog. And then I looked at my calendar, and I noticed May 31st would have been my 16th wedding anniversary if I was still married. And then I got to thinking, you know, no, I'm not at that phase. I'm not there anymore. And I was thinking about all the different transitions, you know, the married couple, the soon-to-be divorced couple, and then me, the divorcee. Transition. That's what this is about. And I felt I needed to talk to you guys about this. This might be a long one, but I wanted to help you guys through. When I was married, I was so excited and so happy and so perky. You know, my life was going to be different. Trust me, if I was still married, I wouldn't be doing this vlog, because that person would not be doing these. She's not, I'm not the same person. Anyway, I was excited, I was happy, and then I started getting sick. And then everything changed and, you know, exploded and evolved, and, you know the story. I just went through my process of dealing with my diagnosis and dealing with being somebody with this disease. And like during the very beginning stages, I was diagnosed, it was finalized in '99. I was married in 98. It was finalized in 99. And from then on, it was a process of trying meds, doctor's appointments, having your body deal with this bombardment of meds that did stuff to your system that you couldn't even imagine. I mean, like I said, before I was diagnosed, I was taking vitamins. That's it. Occasional aspirin for a headache. That's it. Once I was diagnosed, I was taking stuff just to stop my eyes from jarring back and forth, to maintain my balance, to being able to, you name it, I was taking it. And it had done such a number on my body that I was just like constantly begging my God, just like take me, I'm done. Because it was such, like a 180, boom, boom, like boom, boom. And then I'd say around 6 months later, everything started to ease out and calm down. But for those first 6 months of diagnosis, oh my God, it was horrible. And it did a strain on my marriage, and that's probably when everything started to fall apart. We had decided to separate. We had lived in a small little studio, and then we moved up to a 2-bedroom in the same building in that same time. And once we moved up, it was basically when we separated, because he had 1 bedroom, I had the other. It was a given. It was done. And we just maintained our lives within, our lives. So I'd say a good year after we were married, year and a half, is when we basically broke up. Well, we began breaking up, and the transition began. And the thing is, we lived in the same place, so it was that much harder because we saw each other's comings and goings. I never really stayed home. I was always out doing, that was like the height of my theater days, where I was going back to college and hanging out with my theater friends. Those are the friends that I talk to you guys about that I will never forget, and they've been like the dearest friends to me, because nobody really knew what was going on, but that was why I was with them, and they have no idea how much they truly, truly saved me, because I was dealing with this disease, and I was dealing with, my marriage breaking apart. But I see what was going on. Now, he's in a band, Charles Trippy, and he's on the road and he's doing it, so it distracts him from the reality of being home and realizing, you're alone. And or the situation changes where that other person's not there, whether they don't want to or the situation changed, and that's what happened for me. That's why I was out ridiculously late. I was working, I was building sets, working on costumes, running lines. I was doing any and everything not to be home. And it could have been worse. I mean, people could be going, there are people that go to bars, there are people that do this and do that. I submerged myself in theater, and it really, really helped. But, when you didn't have any, excuse me, I hiccuped. When you don't have anything to do, you pray for something to do. So that was my transition phase. And when I wasn't doing that, I was listening to, I know what people will say. I listened to Howard Stern. He made me laugh. I made tapes of his shows when he was on, New York radio. I made tapes of his shows. I taped weeks, and then I replayed them for myself so that I had somebody here. No, it wasn't here. I lived someplace else. But I had a voice to talk to because I was very much alone. My parents didn't stay with us because they said, she's married. It's her life now. And I don't blame them. They didn't know. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know how bad I was. They had no idea. Once they found out, that's another story. They were, ooh. Anyway, but that transition, that was the hardest path in my life. But, I did have good friends. Once I got myself into theater and helped them out, it all gelled and it helped. Now, like my best friend, see, I've never had a sister, so I wouldn't know, but she's like a dear best friend of mine. You are. You help me through. And you understand what's going on with me now. I'm fine. I look fine. By 2 o'clock, I'm back here. Because I don't want to say my body breaks down, but I get tired. I look fine, but I get tired. It's what happens. I've learned to accept it. But anyway, the transition, that's what happens. You're angry. You're worried. You're depressed. Because you blame yourself. It's like, what did I do? I used to ask myself, why, are you blaming me for being sick? And in fact, I thought I was to blame for being sick, because if you stay out in the rain too long, you're going to get MS. That's what I thought. But the transition is what it is. It's that path where you learn about yourself and you figure out what it is. You think about what's happened. You accept whatever blame you own, if any. You may not have done anything. You may have done everything. You may have been 50-50. Who knows? I know at the time when I was married, I thought of myself as a pretty princess, and I demanded everything. So I know parts of that was my fault. But parts of it weren't. You go through your vows in sickness and in health, for rich or for poor and everything. You're like, aren't you supposed to be there for me for that? And then you point the blame based on that. And you recap everything you do. And then, you dwell on that for a while. You dwell on your anger. You dwell on your depression. You do things, to punish yourself, because apparently you accept the blame. Or you don't. You do. Either way, you punish yourself, whether you want to or not, or whether you know you are or not. And then something just wakes you up and says, hey, get off your ass and do it. And it's like, what? Whatever. It's going to take you to stop thinking like this and being like this. And for me, it was just moving on, getting a different job, meeting different friends. No, for me, was acting. And I realized I could do it, and I wanted to do it. I woke up, and I loved where I was. So, I'm going to be your transition friend. Anytime you want to talk to me about it, just ask me. Ask me. I'll help you through. I'll go with you. I'll walk with you. You know, it'll take some time. You know, because, I mean, this was someone you devoted your life to. You assumed. And it didn't work out. So, you're going to feel some jarring. And if you turn to be the blame, that's okay too. The fact that you're acknowledging it, that's a good step. That's a step. Anyway, I'm out of here. This is about 15, 16 minutes. I figured it's gonna be a long one. So, it's gonna be fine. And you're gonna be fine. And we have to be. Because we're not punishing ourselves anymore. The person that was 16 years ago, she isn't around. I'll be honest, she basically died about 13 years ago. This is the new me, and I'm beginning to kind of really like her. So, I will see you guys in the morning, and thanks for listening. We'll talk again. Feel free. Anytime.